Good afternoon. Boy, you almost caught me singing. I was singing along with the music. I am so glad you guys are with us. Good afternoon and welcome to the Greater Cincinnati Safety Council's monthly virtual meeting. Again, glad you are spending your afternoon with us. The goal of today's meeting is to introduce our members and guests to solutions and information to enhance or maybe even start a safety culture within your own organization. We'll receive important updates from Ohio BWC from our partner Greg Hartman, and a great discussion today with our keynote speaker, Dr. Bill Kennedy. You are in for a treat this afternoon. I'm Beth McNeil with the Greater Cincinnati Safety Council, and I have had the privilege of supporting these meetings over the last couple of months once we've gone virtual. But I want to introduce one of our chamber colleagues who is back with us and ready to jump in the seat to take over these meetings. She's a phenomenal partner. Andrea Saunders is our events manager at the Cincinnati Regional Chamber, and she will serve as your host going forward. So I wanted to say thank you for Andrea for adding Safety Council back on what is a very full plate for Andrea, but we're happy to have her back with us. Thanks so much, Andrea.
Thanks, Beth. Thank you for covering and definitely hosting and doing a great job at it in my absence. But thank you all. You have joined this meeting virtually in a listen-only mode with your microphones muted. Questions for our speaker can be submitted in writing through Zoom's Q&A window today. Please be sure that you are sharing your thoughts and feedback during this discussion for our two speakers. We'll cover as many questions as we can within our time frame. And you've joined us by phone or need to sign off sooner, you can view our full webinar posted at our website, which is cincinnati-chamber.com, and you can find that information there within the next 2 days. Here's a quick look at our meeting agenda. Please make sure you have a pen and paper to capture all the important info that's about to be shared on today's meeting. So now I'd like to start the meeting off with any updates from our members. If you would like to share updates, events, or good news happening at your business in our community, please put your name in the chat and I will unmute you so that you can talk. And I do know that we have one that I'll go ahead. I think Greg, is that correct? Would like to share a few updates. And I will, or sorry, Gary. And I will go ahead and unmute him as I know he has some updates to share. Hi, Gary, if you unmute yourself, you can speak.
Good morning, Andrea. Yeah, good morning, everybody, or not a good morning. Hello, everybody. I just want to give a quick message from Clermont County. My name's Gary Caudell. I'm the safety coordinator for Clermont County, and I hope everyone is doing well through these unprecedented times. In case you're not familiar, we're located in Batavia, Ohio. A couple of quick things I'd like to mention. Two people with respect is like Julianne Nesbitt. She's our health commissioner. She's doing an excellent job through the COVID-19 pandemic. Her crew and staff are with a total case of like 6,500 through the COVID-19, and they're doing an outstanding job. And I would like to mention, if I could, Mr. Humphrey is one of our long-serving commissioners. We're bidding farewell to him on December 31st, 2020. Mr. Humphrey served 31 years as a Clermont County Commissioner, and he was very supportive of our safety program. But here at Clermont County, the quick message I would like to put out is don't forget about safety training for your employees. Because everyone knows as professionals in safety, we have to train employees to do their part during this COVID-19 pandemic at work and at home. Probably saying to yourself right now, you know, I've heard all this stuff 100 times, but people are still getting sick from this virus. During challenging times like these, you might be tempted to cut back on your employee training, but right now is not the time to let your guard down. Your team is busy, people are working from home, and you're focused on your new priorities, such as keeping the doors open and doing all you can to help people stay healthy and safe. The reality is providing your employees with training is still critical during times like these. Here at Clermont County, we have top priority right now to train our employees to do their part, to do your part. All you have to do is please wear a mask in the public. Please wash your hands often. Please physically distance yourself from others, and please don't touch your face. Hopefully real soon we can get back to classroom training. But in the meantime, by training the way we are online and all that, it's keeping Clermont County safety culture alive. I just want to give a quick message there, and thanks for the recognition. Thank you.
Thank you, Gary. Is there anyone else? I'll give you a couple seconds here to shoot that name in the chat. You guys have any updates? All right, we're going to move on along. I'll keep an eye on that chat just in case anyone pops up. You can find the calendar of meetings and topics on our website, plus all the recordings of our meetings thus far that we've done this year virtually. So please bookmark that webpage that I mentioned earlier and check for updates. The website will be our primary way of keeping everyone informed, and we will still keep sending out those monthly reminders and updates from the BWC. Next, I would like to introduce Greg Hartman, the member of our steering committee, to provide our Ohio Bureau Workers' Comp updates. Hi, Greg.
Hey, Andrea. Thank you. I appreciate it. Thanks everybody for joining us. Like always, I wish we were back at the Oasis so we could have a little face-to-face interaction. And yeah, I like moving around. I hate having to be confined to my laptop, but that's where we're at right now. So we'll do best with what we've got. So I am going to provide the quick BWC monthly updates prior to our main speaker. First thing I always try to lead off with are the webinars that we're putting on right now. Again, we're not having face-to-face training anytime soon, so we've really moved everything over to virtual platforms. Our webinars are kind of nice because they're pretty much always right about an hour in length. If you look at the calendar that I have on this slide, you can see there are a couple that are already passed. I like to go ahead and throw those on there because you can hop on our BWC Learning Center website, and if you go from the search bar and just type in webinar, all these are going to come up and you can actually catch a replay of these. So even if you've missed it, don't worry about it. If you see something you think might be interesting, I would try hopping on. We get really good feedback on the Developing a Driver Safety Program. We held that on December 1st. On the 3rd, we had a webinar was actually offered for credit. If you need ISSP credit or anything like that, on if you need help with environmental regulations. On the 8th, there were virtual safety consultations as a webinar. On the 15th, we had the webinar on accident analysis. Why should I do it? That'll actually tie in well with our speaker for next month as well, where we're going to talk about common pitfalls and things you need to avoid with the post-accident investigations. On the 22nd, there's a webinar on winning management commitment in regards to your health and safety programs. And on the 29th, there's a webinar on lockout tagout. Moving on, we'll cover some of the virtual classes that we've moved to. Again, you know, a couple of these may have already passed, but I want to let you know we are still offering these virtually. At the beginning of the month, we had confined space assessment and work. And actually going on right now is electrical hazard recognition and abatement. That class is only offered a handful of times a year, but that's a very popular class. You may want to consider, you know, attending that class in the future when it's offered. A really important class, especially for this time of year, is the Osha record keeping half-day workshop. I've been a part of the team that's working on that virtual class. I'll probably be one of the moderators for this session. So right now, you know, we're coming to the end of the calendar year, so we need to make sure all of our Osha logs are up to date, you know, between the 300, the 301s, where you're going to get a lot of that information, and then finally we need to work on that summary, the 300A. So if you have any questions about that, you need a refresher, you're not sure about things, I would highly encourage you to hop into that class. There's still some openings left. I think moving on, Andrea, you get the dance. This is another area where a lot of the consultants around the state, like myself, have been putting in a lot of time during the pandemic, is we're actually trying to work to provide employers with some written safety program templates. We had quite a few templates on our website, but they had not been updated in quite some time. So I've worked on several of these, so the consultants on my other team. What I really like about these templates we're handing out to employers right now is we're going to give you an updated template, and we have, you know, basically I would like to say we pick our top consultants to work on specific areas where they're very strong in, And in addition to providing you that template, if you think of the comments that you would typically put in on a Word document off to the side, consultants, we're trying to give you tidbits and pieces of advice throughout the template to help you accomplish what you need to do to be in compliance with the program. We're also offering a lot of best practices in this comment area. So right now we have just updated on our website, hazard communication, a driver safety policy, a first aid program, an emergency action program, and a personal protective equipment program. I've worked on a couple of these that you see right now. There's a couple more that we're going to have probably published within the next month or two as well. Okay, moving on, another program that we have that's just been launched. I'm really excited and proud that we can talk about this. Is the BWC is actually working to help provide a grant program right now. And this is going to be in regards to COVID-19 and indoor air quality throughout certain employers throughout the state, and I'll touch on those. But basically, the grant is going to offer up to $15,000, which is going to help cover the cost of inspections, maintenance, and improvements to HVAC systems that might help control the spread of COVID-19. At this point in time, the eligible employers are limited right now to nursing homes, assisted living facilities, also adult day centers that are Medicaid providers. You can actually apply online. It doesn't actually take a visit from myself or any of the consultants like some of our other grants. This is one you can hop on our website and actually apply for the grant as well. So I'll try to maybe pop a link into the chat a little bit later on. But if you have any questions, again, I'll always throw my contact information into the chat area. Feel free to reach out to me and I'll help you out in any way that I can. As I've mentioned before, our Ohio Safety Congress and Expo is actually being held virtually. Again, I know I've said it at prior meetings, but we had to kind of throw it together at the last minute this past spring. A week ahead of time, we weren't sure if we were having Safety Congress or not, and then we did, but it was held virtually. This time we've had a whole year to plan on this. Registration is now open. I'd encourage you to hop online and start trying to find some of those educational programs and webinars that might benefit you or other people within your company. Thanks. NIOSH has updated a couple items on their website. First would be have some information regarding national stand downs to prevent struck by injuries. Usually earlier in the year, there's a stand down to prevent fall injuries in the construction area. At this point in time, they're trying to offer one related to struck by injuries. They've updated some information on fighting the flu, frostbite, and hypothermia. And they actually have some downloadable posters you can post throughout your place of employment regarding frostbite and hypothermia. OSHA has updated several items on their website as well, specifically seasonal worker safety. So that's going to be related to the cold months that we have coming up ahead. That second bullet point, I think, is probably an important one. They're offering some little additional guidance on how they're citing employers in relation to the coronavirus. They've updated information. It seems like this is almost every month. They're adding more information regarding respiratory protection guidance for long-term care facilities, and then also ventilation in the workplace. And then finally, the National Fire Protection Association, they've updated their website as well, I think, to kind of keep in with the season. They're offering some information on outdoor heater safety. They have fact sheets in relation to that. Winter holiday safety, they have fact sheets, tips, and videos. And then finally, they also have a new standard they're developing on virtual inspections in the workplace. They put out a lot of different standards and guidance regarding confined spaces, electrical safety, but this specifically ties into virtual inspections. It's not been finalized. It'll probably be finalized, I would say, within the next 6 months, though. So that's the updates I have from BWC at this point in time. I'm going to hand it off to my manager, Tim Clark, to introduce our main speaker for the meeting. Thank you.
Well, thanks, Greg. I'm like you. I'd rather be at the Oasis today, because if we were at the Oasis, we would have those fresh baked cookies that everybody loves so much. I get the pleasure of introducing our speaker for today. Dr. William Kennedy he's first of all a husband and a father of 2 adult children. And he's a business consultant and sports clinical and forensic psychologist who's based right up the road in Wilmington, Ohio. He graduated from Wilmington College with degrees in both psychology and mathematics. And then he went on to Wright State to earn his doctorate in clinical psychology. As a consultant and trainer, Dr. Kennedy works with individuals in various sized businesses in areas including project development, problem solving, executive coaching, mission and vision development, and planning. Bill provides training and seminars on workplace violence in multiple venues, including the Ohio Safety Congress. And I first heard Bill at another safety council meeting, and his presentation was so excellent. I said, we've got to get him to come speak at Greater Cincinnati. So today you're in for a treat. Dr. Kennedy consults extensively with private and nonprofit businesses regarding safety issues, threat assessment, workplace safety, de-escalation, hostile employees, and training around safety and security topics. He's also a consultant to the Clinton County Sheriff's Department and an advisor to the Wilmington Police Department on their hostage negotiation team. Today, he'll be joined by his partner and son, Ben, for the presentation. So without further ado, please join me in welcoming Dr. William Kennedy to the Greater Cincinnati Safety Council.
Yeah, hi guys. So I have to warn you at first, I am AV impaired, which means I know that I will mess something up in the process of doing this. I am just going to say that up front so that all those expectations are cleared. Okay, so there we go. So really what we're going to do is, because we only have an hour, we're going to try to let you guys know what kind of things you would need to know and ask about if you're considering getting workplace violence training.
Real quick before we go much further, can you guys see everything okay? Are we good to go?
We can see you, but we don't. Do we see your slides?
Do you not see our
Not
slides?
see the slides. Yep. Gotta check. That's important. Okay. I don't think you were set onto the screen sharing part of it yet.
I think you are absolutely correct. So let's see.
Yep. There you go. Now we're good. Okay.
I did tell you I'm AV impaired, right? I did give you that disclaimer.
There was the warning. Good. Yep. We didn't have our lovely people up in the corner for us. Ah, how's that? Is that better? Second.
There it is. You're good.
Wonderful.
Oh, yay. Okay.
Wonderful. We've got a little bit of a delay, so keep that
A
in.
little bit like that. Awesome. So kind of like we said, we don't have time to go over all the things that you guys would need in order to learn self-protection in the workplace. So really this presentation is about, if you do decide that you want to get some kind of training, what are the things that you need to know? What are the things you need to ask for? How can you be smart consumers?
It's not going to carry through.
It is.
Of course it's not. What? Do you have it by hand?
I do have it by hand.
Wonderful. So, again, like we said, AV impaired, no matter how many times we try, I guarantee that something will go wrong.
So kind of introduce myself. You heard a little bit of a rundown on who we are. I'd like to tell you guys a quick story though. It was June 10th, 1995. It was a Saturday. It was a really, really interesting day for me because on that day, several really interesting things happened. Graduated with my doctorate in clinical psychology. Our oldest daughter was born. And my mom was beaten to death in Cincinnati. She had gotten into an altercation with a neighbor who was angry, and the neighbor followed my mom home, followed her up the street, and the neighbor and her 12-year-old son beat and stabbed my mother to death, right on Rice Street, if you're familiar with Cincinnati. So the reason I tell you guys that is to let you know that with the exception of mass casualty violence, there's not an area of violence that I am not intimately connected with, that I haven't worked on, whether we're talking about domestic violence or we're talking about other types of violence. There's not an area that I haven't really worked with. So I want to introduce, because I already gave a little bit of an introduction of who I am, I'd like to introduce Ben Kennedy. Some family resemblance you might notice. Ben is our other trainer, and Ben's going to tell you a little bit about himself.
So I already told you a little bit about me. My name is Benjamin Kennedy. I've been doing martial arts for a decent portion of my life, about 20 years. And then I've been teaching self-defense work in tandem with Kennedy Consulting, again, family resemblance, for the past 8 or so. And you know that type of violence that he said that he didn't have any experience with? I have. We kind of round each other out because if you guys remember the Dayton shooting that happened a couple years ago now, right? Something like that. I was there with family and friends. Luckily, we made it out safe. No more holes and no less blood than we got there with. But now that we've got that one under our belt, which is not a fun thing to have tested, we can officially say that we've gotten to work through just about every single type of violence that people can come in contact with. What that does for us, what that does for me, what that does for him, what that does for us in general, is that really lets us take a really solid look at a lot of the aspects of violence that some people may not be accustomed with, and break them down in a way that makes sense to everybody, because since we're just regular people, we have a good look at this, and we can take this apart for you guys.
So I want to talk to you about Ikage, which is
real
a
quick,
Japanese
so sorry.
concept.
One more thing. I am also the rabbit from Alice in Wonderland. I will constantly be checking my phone for time. Do not mind me. That is all I'm doing. I'm just making sure we stay on time. Yes.
Because I talk for a living. So if he doesn't check me, you guys will be here for a long, long, long time. And nobody wants that. So he'll keep track of time for me because I won't. So I want to talk about Ikage, and that is a concept of the combination, the interaction between what you love doing, what the world needs more of, what you can get paid for doing, and what you're good at. That's kind of your reason for being. And working on and teaching people how to be safe is my Ikage. It's something that I wake up in the morning thinking about, and I go to bed thinking about how we can do it better. So if you are deciding that you are wanting to get some kind of training, there are a few things that you really, really need to know about. Most of you probably know about the general duty clause, which just says that even though there isn't something in OSHA regulations that say that you have to help people regarding self-protection and workplace violence, it does say that you have to keep that workplace free from hazards that can cause serious physical harm. And workplace violence definitely comes into that category. It is something that OSHA is recognizing more and more. They're putting out guidelines on it. So the reasons you need to worry about this, if you're the business, one of them comes down to just financial. That there's about a little over $4 billion each year that go out because of workplace violence, whether you're talking about lawsuits, or you're talking about workers' comp claims, you're talking about poor retention, impaired work performance. All of those things lead people to need self-protection if you're the business. The impact that's going to have on your employees are going to be everything from post-traumatic stress to burnout. If you're looking at workplace violence, that incident that happens changes the culture of your business, of your community. It causes everything to change. If you're not prepared to deal with that, then you're going to run into some difficulties. So if you are going to get some kind of training in workplace violence, what do you need to make sure that they cover? You're talking to some potential trainer. What kind of things do you need to make sure that they go over to know that you got your money's worth? Well, the first thing is self-protection and self-defense are a legal concept. It means something in legal terms. So I need that trainer to go over legal and ethical issues with regard to self-protection. What actually is self-protection? If you're working in Greater Cincinnati, are the laws in Cincinnati and Ohio the same as they are in Kentucky in terms of self-protection? Are they the same as they are in Indiana? If you have an employee who has to drive a route and they have to go to those 3 different states, you need to know what's considered self-protection and self-defense in each of those states. You need to know ethically what you are willing or not willing to do. You as an individual, you as a company. If you're in a healthcare profession, do you have a different set of ethics than you do if you're in construction? All of those are things that if your trainer doesn't go over them, you're not getting your money's worth and you're not getting the things you need in terms of training. You need to know about violence dynamics. There are different kinds of violence. They happen different ways. They have different causes. They have different patterns to them. You need to know how those patterns look, what escalates them, what brings them down. If your training treats it as kind of all violence is the same, then you're not getting what you need in your training. I need to know what kind of things escalate violence, what kind of things de-escalate violence. How does it actually happen? Not what do you see on TV, not what did you hear from your cousin Ted or your friend. Someplace that you get training has to have studied the actual dynamics of violence. They need to know what the national, what the international, what the local trends are in terms of violence, where it escalates, where it de-escalates. That's something that you deserve in your training. Your training needs to teach you strategies that will help you avoid those situations. If you can't avoid those situations, you need strategies that help you escape from those environments. And if you can't escape from those environments, your training needs to teach you de-escalation. A lot of times you'll see training that is all focused on physical attributes. We're just going to get in there and teach you how to do this lock or that lock. That's not what you need. Or you'll see the opposite extreme. You'll see one that is out of an education-based, out of psychology-based training, what have you, that everything is about de-escalating. Everything is about verbal de-escalation skills. If your training only has one of those or the other, you're not getting everything that you need for training. Your training needs to teach you how to break out of a freeze. And Ben's going to talk more about that a little bit later. But at least every vertebrate that experiences unexpected violence freezes. You have to be able to learn. Your training needs to teach you how to recognize that freeze is going on and how to break out of that freeze. You need to learn counter ambush. No one is going to say, "Are you ready? I'm going to attack you now."
Give me like 10 seconds. I gotta stretch.
Okay, stretch first. Get stretched out.
Wonderful. Gotta get the hands loose, you know. Yep, all right, cool, we're good.
Okay,
We're ready to go.
Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my right hand. I'm going to swing it at your head. Ready?
This, wait. This side or that side? Okay,
No, not that.
this side. Okay, I can only get. I'm sorry, I'm confused and scared. Okay,
1, 2, 3.
Ah!
Yeah, wonderful. That's not what happens. Nobody does that in real life. You're going to get attacked if it's a violent situation, and you may not see it coming. You need to have some kind of strategies that if that happens, you can still be safe.
If it wants to carry on with the slide.
Right? You need to have some physical self-protection skills. Although most situations don't turn physically violent, if it does, it can go catastrophically wrong. And if you don't have skills that allow you to protect yourself, that you've actually practiced, that you've actually tested and see that they work, if you don't have those things in your training, then your training is not serving you the way you deserve. Thank you.
There you go. No problem.
And you need to learn about the aftermath. Any situation where you use physical aggression or physical violence to keep yourself safe, even if it is completely legal, will have consequences for you. It may have legal consequences. It may have emotional and psychological consequences. You may see yourself differently. I'm not the kind of person that could hurt somebody until you have to. Other people may see you differently. You need to have somebody let you know in advance that these are some of the ways that protecting yourself can affect you. These are some of the ways that doing things that keep you safe can have an impact on you and on others. If your training doesn't address that, then you're not getting all the training that you deserve. So you say, okay, I've got the training, I know what I'm looking for. So I also need to know a certain set of knowledge, a certain set of skills, and a certain set of attitudes resulting from that training. That training ideally needs to teach me situational awareness. What's a situation? Everybody says you need to be situationally aware. Very rarely do people tell you, this is what I mean by situational awareness. These are the three different kinds of situational environments that we're talking about. We're talking about internal, we're talking about the actual physical surroundings, and we're talking about the people and the relationships that you have to the people in those environments. If your training isn't teaching you those types of things, then you're not getting all that you deserve out of your training. I need to know how to avoid a bad situation. I need to know how to escape. I need to know how to de-escalate it. I have to have some physical skills to keep myself safe. 15. Good day. I've been or it's been?
Has been.
Okay. I need to know what a win actually looks like. We'll have people who will learn self-protection. They will be in a situation. They will verbally de-escalate it. They will get that situation completely de-escalated. And when we talk to them and say, well, what did you do in terms of self-defense? They say, I didn't do anything. Well, I didn't punch him. I didn't kick him. They think that that's a win, or that they have to stay in this situation. So you need to know what an actual win looks like. An actual win means that you make it home safe. That at the end of the day, you're making it home okay. A win means that everybody that you care about makes it home safe. That could be your customers, that can be your coworkers, that can be your employees, that can be yourself, that can be bystanders who happen to be at the job site too. Everybody that matters to you has to make it home safe in order for this to be a win. You can't go to jail for what you did in order to be safe. Like we said, self-defense is a legal concept, which means if I do something that violates the law and I can't justify that, then I can go to jail for that. If I can't articulate, if I can't explain to my peers, to a jury, why what I did was a reasonable thing to do, then I can go to jail for it. And I don't want to lose a civil lawsuit over it, because everybody says, I'd rather be tried by 12 than carried by 6, until they get tried by 12. There's nothing fun about that. And glib responses like, it's not a big deal because you made it out alive, without realizing that maybe what I did, I lost a lawsuit. And now I'm bankrupt, my family's bankrupt, my company's bankrupt, whatever. If your training doesn't teach you about that, then you are not getting what you deserve and your employees deserve. So you've decided you want to get training. You found out what you need for it. You also need to know exactly what workplace violence is. So there are 4 classes of workplace violence, and I'd argue that there may end up being a 5th. But right now, there are basically 4 types of situations that constitute workplace violence. Now remember, your workplace is not just the office. It's the parking lot going to the office. It's the route that you drive if you're a delivery person. It's that person's house that you go into when you're home health care aide. All of those are considered workplaces. So when you're talking about workplace violence, you are talking about violence that occurs in any one of those settings. So type 1 is where it's just a good place for bad things to happen. You're at the job site and someone tries to steal some tools and assaults the person who they're taking them from. You're working at a restaurant, it's closing time, and someone comes in and wants to take the money out of the register. This is just a good place for bad things to happen. Now, the caveat in type 1 is there's some research that's starting to come out that is classifying acts of terror as a separate type. Remember, type 1 is just, this is a good place to do it. So if it is a terrorist act at a site, they're counting that as a separate type of violence. But for now, all that's assumed under type 1. Type 2 is where it is the client or the customer that is causing the violence or is causing the problem. It is an employee. It is you work for DP&L, or I'm sorry, I'm up in Wilmington. You work for CG&E. Please don't hate me for that one. You work for CG&E and you have to disconnect someone's electricity. And that person has a connection to you or your business. You're the nurse and someone has a PTSD flashback. You run customer service and an irate customer comes in because they felt that they were overcharged. That's type 2. Type 3 is what people typically think of when they say workplace violence. That's where there's a relationship, a coworker becomes angry, agitated, and is aggressive. This is workplace bullying. This is sexual harassment, which are all forms of workplace violence, by the way. And type 4 is where someone else has a connection to that workplace and someone that has a connection to them comes to that workplace and does violence. This is when there is an estranged spouse. This is where someone cut someone off in traffic and they followed them into the parking lot. All of those are types of workplace violence. Your training needs to address that. So let's turn this stuff over to Ben for a minute.
Hi guys. So one of the things that I wanted to touch on real quick that I didn't get a chance to when you were talking because you had a really good flow going, is going back to not losing the civil case for what I did. Bill talking about rather be tried by 12 than carried by 6. The cool thing, the thing that we always get hung up on as teachers is you don't have to do either. That's ridiculous. That's not binary. You don't have one or the other. You don't have to do either. You can take that middle road that bypasses both of them. So super important, and I wanted to say. Moving on into predatory violence, we've got 2 basic types of violence. And what you're going to notice as we go through these, we've got predatory and affective. As we go through these, you're going to see that some of the types of workplace violence fall under predatory, some of them fall under affective. Now, do you have this affective or affective? Wonderful. Awesome. I just want to make sure we're on the same page. So predatory violence. Predatory violence splits off into 2 basic types. You've got process predation and resource predation. Okay? When people think about predatory violence, they usually think about process predation. It's the big scary one. Process predation is I want your body or your life, right? This is about the thrill of the hunt. This is about the things that I want. I need your body, whether this is sexual assault, something like that, or I want your life, serial killer, murderer, something like that. Or you've got resource predation. This is the drug addict that needs a fix and they know that you probably have money, so they're going to rob you for it. This is the, I'm going to go ahead and assault one of the people at the workplace, especially if we're talking construction, because sometimes there's copper there, stuff like that. People know that that sells well. So that is the difference. We've got process and resource predation. Carry on. Good. Yeah. Second. That's okay, not a problem. And then you've got affective violence. Affective violence is super important because that is in response to something happening. It's in response to an attack. Now, this attack does not have to be physical. things that are included in this. With affective violence, you've got everything from an attack to my self-esteem, to my ego, an attack to my perceived social standings. These things aren't really tangible, but they're just as important in our brains, and as we'll get to our triune brain, they become extremely important. And then you've got just a response to physical violence. Now, when we talk about physical violence, and he was talking about a freeze, when any sort of vertebrate, at least as far as we know, experiences unexpected violence, everyone knows fight or flight, right? We've all heard this since we were like this big, fight or flight. That is garbage. That is not true. Here's the actual order: freeze, flee, fight. If anyone has ever been driving at night, especially in Ohio, and you're running up on a deer, does that deer see you and then rear up and try and attack your car? No, it freezes. Saying fight or flight is kind of silly because it's not going to start out by fighting. It's going to start out by running. It's actually going to start out by freezing. It gets that unexpected violence, and what it says is, all right, so if I don't move, it won't see me. Once it realizes that the car is still coming at it, then it goes, okay, so I need to run. And then it tries to escape. And the last thing it does, its last resort, is fighting. The thing is, humans do the same thing. But when we're experiencing unexpected violence from other humans, freezing doesn't work so well because freezing implies that their sight is based on movement. He can see me really well if I hold still. Watch. That's still got me.
Still there.
Cool. So something to keep in mind with that freeze, flee, fight, however, is when I freeze and I realize that it doesn't work, I then try to flee. If I'm trying to flee and he's chasing me, he's hitting me, he's attacking me, then I fight. And I fight until I can flee. That's what's important there. And that's not just something that we need to know in our human brain, which we're getting to next. That's something that our body knows inherently. It tries to get you to safety so that you can afford to freeze up and figure out what's going on, figure out your next move, stuff like that. And if you're cool with it, we'll go ahead and move on to the next part. Wonderful. So as we're talking, 3 brains, right? Now, this is not necessarily scientifically accurate, but this is a really, really good way to explain things. We've got 3 separate brains. First off is our lizard brain. This is our base brain. This is the one that is indicative of, I need to survive, I need to eat, I need to make sure I live till tomorrow. Lizard brain runs us when violence happens, right? This is the one that says, okay, wonderful. So you need to get to safety, or you need to fight this thing till you can leave and live another day. That's our lizard brain. It's extremely important. The problem is it's extremely hard to train because lizard brain will say, do the same thing over and over again, as long as it doesn't get you killed. This is difficult because now we have to try and convince this lizard brain that there's a better way to do things, which is where sometimes training gets really difficult. I'm sure none of you have ever had the issue of dealing with someone who's stubborn because they've done it the same way since they were this big or since they just started the workforce, and it's always worked, so why change it? That's lizard brain. This shifts over into our monkey brain. Monkey brain's a little bit smarter. Monkey brain thinks about our spot in the tribe. It thinks about how we're going to survive in our community. When we talk about the workplace, monkey brain is usually what gets in the way when people are doing that third type of workplace violence. This is this arguing back and forth, this is the bickering. Dude, I told you to refill the paper clips after you
I don't have to refill the paper clips. It's not my job.
Why are you like this?
No, I don't have to.
You know what? You want to step outside?
Fine, let's do it.
That is monkey brain. That is also what we call a monkey dance. If you notice, there were a couple things that happened. First off, we started out by getting a little bit bigger. We puffed up a little bit. Second thing is we started talking louder. We put our voices a little bit deeper, not by much, just we needed to sound bigger. There's a little bit of circling, right? Now, if this is going to go physical, this monkey dance looks like this. You know what? Why don't we step outside? Yeah?
Why don't we step outside?
And then the big swing, right? That's the big fight. That's when everybody's fighting back and forth in the middle. And now you get a circle of people watching, and that gets really bad for everybody involved. So we've got our monkey brain. Monkey brain's one side. Monkey brain is super important, but it still answers to lizard brain. At the end of the day, I need to survive till the next day to continue to help the tribe. Okay? Now, moving on. We good? We good? Wonderful. And please say something if I've missed anything that's important.
That's good so far. I'm
Okay,
good.
wonderful. Here's our human brain. Human brain is the one that can say, okay, so I need to have this much money by next week in order to go out to the movies. I need to save this much back for my groceries. Human brain is really, really smart. It does really good forward thinking. And this is the one that says, yeah, I know, but it's just so hard. This is the one where you're talking to your friend and they're in a really bad relationship and you're telling them, look at this. This is bad for you. You know it's bad for you. They're always horrible to you. They always treat you poorly. They're never nice to you. Why are you still there? Human brain says, I know I should leave. But then it answers to monkey brain. Monkey brain says, I need to be a part of a tribe because if I'm alone, lizard brain finishes the sentence with, you die.
You die.
So this is the dilemma with a lot of situations. And this is also the dilemma with a lot of training that you guys will end up working through. You've got the human brain that says, I know I should be training this, right? But if anybody else in that group is like, I don't really want to do it, then monkey brain says, the tribe says don't do it. We don't do it. And the lizard brain says, okay, but we've been doing it the same way. And they're probably right, because we've been doing it the same way since we started. And honestly, I feel like it works pretty well because we haven't died yet, which is hard to argue with. We have to convince lizard brain that there's a better way. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, also when that flight or fight brain kicks in, the human brain shuts off.
Right.
So beforehand, it's saying, this is a bad idea. Afterwards, it says,
that was
really
a
stupid
idea.
In the middle, it says, this is the only thing I can think of. This is what I've got to do because it'll keep me alive.
Yep, exactly. Cool. That cover most of that for you? Yep. Wonderful, wonderful. Awesome. Strategies. I'm trying to keep this nice and fast paced for you guys because I know you guys are so excited to be sitting behind a desk and just looking at a face on the screen all day. That's got to be the most fun for you. So getting out of your monkey brain, we've got some strategies. First thing that I have to do is I have to recognize that I'm in my monkey brain. This one that says that I want to fight back and forth, I have to recognize, okay, I'm getting really mad about paper clips. Oh, it's not actually about paper clips, is it?
It's about my status.
It's about my status, and it's about his job and my job and our roles in this society that we have.
Power.
Right, exactly. I have to recognize that. I need to take a big breath. I need to control my affect. I need to control the rising emotions that I've got in my body, and I need to notice that before I can do that. Once I start to take that de-stress, once I start to take that big purging breath, then I can start to break the script. You know what? How can I? Listen, I find it really, really exhausting to have to refill the paper clips over and over again. And I know you don't feel like it's your job because honestly, it's not. It's mine. But is there any way that I can ask for your help in keeping these filled? Because I know we both use them and I would like it to be a little bit more of an equal share.
I shouldn't have to do it.
I know you shouldn't have to do it. Honestly, I don't feel like doing it either. But if you're borrowing paper clips, I end up spending resources to put those paper clips back in there. And eventually, I don't end up with paper clips anymore, which means you don't end up with paper clips anymore.
Okay.
Okay, cool. And again, I don't mean to be a bother. It's just, it's hard for me. Okay, wonderful.
Now, you notice he didn't take the bait. There were several things that I did to try to pull him back off balance, but he didn't rise to those things. By the way, there's a lot of other things that go under staying calm other than just taking a breath. But
yes,
can't put all of them
got
there.
a lot. Right. Try to keep the moving forward. Go ahead. Wonderful. Things to get them out of their lizard or monkey brain, right? Because we get back to this point of, oh yeah, let's take it outside.
So,
at this point, human brain has said later, and it has left the scene for both of us. Now, I may be really good at checking myself and going, okay, I'm in my monkey brain right now. I don't like the way this is going. I would like to change this. So the acknowledgement that I have to do with that. But if he's still stuck in his lizard or monkey brain and I'm in my human brain, it's very easy for me to get re-aroused, go back to affect and go back and bite back into this bait. So some of the things I need to do is I need to control the pitch of my voice. When you start to get nervous, when you start to get high affect, my voice gets a little bit higher and I talk a little bit louder and faster, and that's really not super good if I'm trying to calm somebody down, because this isn't calming down anybody in the chat, is it? No, it's absolutely not. I need to drop this down a little bit and watch the pitch of my voice. The key with almost all of these as we go through it is I want to do N-1. I want to be just one less than they are. Next thing is I have to control the rate of speech, because like I was saying before, if I talk really fast, this is not really good for you guys to stay calm. This is to keep you guys awake. This is to keep everybody apprised of what I'm doing at this exact moment. And if I slow this down a little bit and take that breath and I start to slow down the rate at which I speak, this helps to calm people down. Loud noises mean bad things are coming to hurt me. Soft noises mean things are going to be okay. So next, I need to monitor my tone. This is important because have you ever, I'm sure we don't have any parents in here. Oh, wait. Have you ever had your kid say, "I'm sorry"? No, they're not. They're not sorry at all. They really are saying, "Go die." But they can't say that. They're saying, "I'm sorry." If your tone is out of joint with what you're trying to convey, if you can pick up on it as a parent, humans can pick up on it between other humans. I go, "I don't care if it's not your job," versus, "I know it's not your job." They sound the exact same, don't they? Yeah. So next, I have to monitor my volume. Again, loud noises mean bad things are going to happen, but quiet noises are okay. And again, all of this is N-1. I need to take what he's doing. If he's being loud,
if I'm talking about like this, and I'm
I
talking
really want
really
to
fast,
talk like this. Hey, listen,
why would I don't need to do that?
You're right. You don't have to do that.
You know what?
That's fine. I really don't like that either for starting this position right now. I think this sucks. Honestly, they should just be giving us more paper clips.
True.
Yeah. Okay. How do we get more paper clips?
How do we get?
So, working through that, Jedi mind tricking them down a couple pegs. Now, if you want to go ahead and cover the camouflage and the force teaming, because
I got them. Yeah. So camouflage is every predator is an ambush hunter. I have to trick, whether it's affective or predatory violence, I have to convince that other person that I'm not what they think I am. In affective violence, he thinks I'm a threat.
Yep.
I have to convince him, "Man, I don't want your job. I don't want your girl. I don't want none of this. We ain't gonna." I have to convince him, I have to camouflage myself so that he doesn't think I'm a threat. If this is predatory, he wants a good victim who is quiet, who goes along with what he's saying to do, who's afraid, who's not going to make waves. I need to let him know, I do see you.
Right.
I need to inject some doubt and some concern. So I have to be able to camouflage. I also need to be able to force team, meaning I need to convince that person that I'm on their side. He did that just now when he said things like we need to get some more paper clips. And now there's this relationship between me and him that I didn't notice was there. And that, to be honest, may not have even been there when we started. That's there now.
Right. I think that takes us through. I think that does take us through. And now it is your go, good
That's
sir.
pretty much it. This is just so if you decide, thank you for the pointer back. This is the other pointer, the one that actually worked. So if you decide at some point you would like to talk more about getting some additional training, good deal. If you'd like to get some additional training, one thing that we do are safety audits. So, and there's no charge for it. We'll touch base with the company. We'll talk through your policies, procedures. We'll talk about your physical environment. We'll come and do a site visit and look at where the risks are for workplace violence. Any one of those 4 kinds. And that's something that we just think that people deserve. So if you want one, there's no obligation, there's no charge, there's no nothing. We just like to make contact and us offer something to people. So that's pretty much what I have to say and do. Is there anything that I missed, Ben?
Any closing statements? I don't believe so. I think we've got everything covered. Just one more rehashing of this. This is a very, very short, very, very abridged version of all the stuff that we need to teach. This is meant to fit in this hour time slot and allows enough time for questions afterward, which is what we're about ready to get to. There's a lot more to cover. And again, if you guys really enjoyed this, if you guys enjoyed the taste of this, and you guys are like, "Hey, I really want to learn more about this," you know where we are, you know where to contact us.
Our standard training is 8 hours, 6 or 8 hours. we really think that it takes about 56,
somewhere around
about
there.
56 hours of training if you've got somebody who's never had any self-protection to be ready for any situation. We think a base level of competence can be developed in about 6 or 8 hours. So one other quick thing, I have a tie to the person who presented before who was from the Claremont County BWC. I have to admit, I am from Claremont County. I'm from Batavia, so I have to do the little shout out there for Batavia. Thanks a lot, guys, and I will stop the screen sharing and see where we are here.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Well, while you're doing that, we did have a question come through.
Oh, sorry.
No problem. I think it's one that can kind of wait till now. So it is more about resources to talk about your freeze, flee, fight response. The reason they're asking about some resources that you have with your experience is because they have had some experience where people are geared not to freeze, fight, then flee as a last resort. So they're saying that they think people fight first. So kind of like what your experience is and how you came to this.
Yep. That's a really good question.
Do you want
to? And sure, unless you want.
Go for it.
So I think what happens in that scenario is there's a really, really quick assessment of whether I think I can get away. Yeah, Ben's a big, strong guy. I'm older than dirt. I'm not going to outrun him. There is no way on God's green earth. Not without oxygen, and I will need the oxygen heavy. So if he's hitting me, I probably don't think I can outrun him and get away. So I might attack him to get away, but I've already considered fleeing. It's just that I can't. I know that I can't get out of the situation. So that flee might be really fast. The consideration of whether or not I can flee may only be a couple moments, but it is still there for at least every vertebrate that there's research on. Reliable. No gazelle goes, you see those lions over there?
Over there?
That one. Let's go get them.
I'll go mine.
Yeah. That's not how it works.
The other thing to keep in mind is the keywords there are unexpected violence. If the violence was in some degree already expected, if you already knew that something was going to happen, you may override that freeze or flee and just go straight to fight. And that is another thing to keep in mind. The keywords there are unexpected violence. Cage fighters do not freeze usually because they're already ready for the fight. They're expecting this to happen. Boxers, stuff like that. They're going into the fight ready for this to happen. Now, one of the exceptions that you may have seen was
Ronda.
Yeah, when she got kicked by Holly Holmes, she did not expect that hard of a kick. She did not expect that type of violence, even in a situation where violence was already expected. So you can still solicit that freeze in a situation where violence is already expected. But she froze hard immediately afterward. It was not good. So keeping that in mind, though, either it's predisposed, not predisposed. Either it is already thought of. You've already realized that there might be violence happening, or there may have been just a really flash, quick assessment because humans are really good at that. There's a reason there's that many of us.
Yeah. Awesome, thanks. And guys, here in our audience, if you guys have any questions, feel free to put them in the chat or that Q&A. And the person that asked that question said, thank you so much. And they're also wondering if you guys have any resources, papers, books that you guys recommend reading or talk about the freeze, flee, and fight.
There are a couple. One is by Gavin DeBecker.
Yeah.
And it's called The Gift of Fear.
So good.
And it is just a really, really good understanding of some of the predatory tactics that are used and how to kind of recognize those. There are a couple by Rory Miller. We kind of track really, really heavily with him. We play together a lot. And he has a couple on self-protection and on recognizing violence.
Would you recommend Meditations on Violence?
I wouldn't for this. I would
Which
recommend, I could pub this book real quick.
Sure.
So keep talking, I'll grab it.
So we can go snag that real quick. We've got him here. He's a really good resource for a lot of things. Corrections officer for a very long time, military for a little while as well. Has gotten to experience just about every facet of violence that you can imagine. He has some really good ways of putting it. Some of them we borrow, and we are constantly back and forth talking. So anything else while he's going to go grab the book? Any other questions?
I have another one for you. Within a company, who do you recommend, like what role or who in the company to go through your training sessions?
The short answer, that's going to sound really smart, Alec, is as many people as you can. That's genuinely, because the more people that start to understand this, the more people that get the dynamics in this, and the more people that can learn this, the better we can shift the tribe in a way that helps to foster this mentality, making it safer for everybody. They asked who in a company, if anyone, would we recommend gets this training? I said as many people as they can.
As you can.
Yeah. If we had to pick one person, you had to pick one person in the company.
That's a really tough question because it's going to depend on what types of violence that company is vulnerable to. There are different violence profiles. No one is ever going to grab me and throw me in the back of a car.
No.
I am not getting abducted.
He's not portable.
I am 200 too much. I am not going anywhere.
Yeah.
But if the receptionist is 105 pounds soaking wet with rocks in her pocket, and she has to go into a dark parking lot when she leaves work, then that person is vulnerable to a different kind of violence. So it really depends on the kind of violence that that individual in that company are vulnerable to.
But yeah, the short answer is as many people as you can. Many people as you can. You really want that tribe mentality to shift. You want as many people working on this as possible.
By the way, it's facing violence is one of the main ones for Roy.
Yeah. Yeah. Very nice. Yeah.
Next one for you. Does your training cover things like active shooter, bomb threat, and general security?
We do a different training for active. So the short answer to that is yes. Extended response is yes, but that is a different training. There are parts of it that map on, but there are different things that go along with it. It varies. You know, everybody knows kind of the or has heard the run, hide, fight piece. There are really, they talk about violence, but there is aggressive. What are you looking at? There is destructive, where that's what people think about. And then there is assaultive. And those are really three different levels of violence, and it takes different things for those. Active shooter is in that assaultive range, and so that has some different training to go along with it. In terms of what's the difference in cover and camouflage and a lot of things like that. So we do have a training that covers that. That's not in our basic traditional 8-hour training. Same way with other weapons.
Yep.
Weapon defense is a really, really complex thing.
It is complex enough that it deserves its own time slot and needs to be worked on to a point that you can minimize luck as much as possible. And we just cannot shoehorn that in and do it justice.
Awesome. So it looks like you guys kind of covered all, just different sessions for different kind of areas of violence.
Mm-hmm.
I think that covers all that we've received so far. I'll keep an eye out for any more that pop in, and you shared your contact information, so we'll be happy. That will be posted again. All of this will be posted on our website, so people can always refer back to find that contact.
Oh, great.
So I'll go ahead and close us out and share here. Are you guys seeing my screen?
Yes.
Awesome. Okay, thank you guys. Thank you, Dr. Kennedy. Thank you, Ben, for sharing your knowledge and expertise with our members. It's definitely a very valuable, very important conversation that needs to happen to keep us and our employees and employers safe. So let's talk about it. Next month on January 13th, we have a great topic, pitfalls, landmines, and best practices. Sorry, I lost my space. Managing and avoiding legal risks in the wake of serious injuries and fatalities. This topic will be very relevant to a wide variety across each organization. So please invite others within your company to our January meeting. And we also want to go ahead and thank Tracy Broccoli, who is our creative producer, for helping with the slideshow here. We thank you to our members who make work at the Greater Cincinnati Safety Council possible. We'd like to see you next month on Zoom at our standing meeting time, second Wednesday of every month, 2:30 to 4. Thank you again, Dr. Kennedy and Ben. It's truly been so great having you. I was just talking to someone else, and I think that this was so interactive because I haven't had someone who actually stood up, and it felt like we were truly
Good.
Try to leave it hard.
we weren't just sitting down. So we really greatly appreciate how interactive you were able to keep it. It kept my attention the entire time, and I'm sure our
Yay.
participants.
Nice. Yeah, great.
So just some feedback there for you. Thank you for each of us for being with us today. Stay safe, stay connected, stay encouraged, and we hope to see you next month. Thanks again.
Thank you. Thank you
guys so
very much. We appreciate
Take
it.
care. We really appreciate it.
Thanks for letting us come play.
All right.